neighbor sessions. This is a Joe that you see on the screen here, and we're gonna do potentially. This is the start of our gym tours. As you can see, Joe is a fucking weapon. I think this is probably one of the best machines ever. It's one of my favorite dip machines. He's got how much you got on there, Joe?
120. No, yeah, 125, 130, somewhere around there.
125 kilos.
Yeah, kilos, not pounds. We're not playing.
No, not playing at all. So how'd you get into lifting, Joe?
I started like at uni, just training like here and there, nothing serious, just like cheap uni gym sort of stuff. And then I think I started properly when I got out of uni, got myself a gym membership and started pushing the weights a little bit more. But I do like a lot of sports and stuff as well, like football. So I try and translate what I'm doing into sports to make me more athletic and those sort of things. So, but yeah, mostly just focusing on bodybuilding stuff now. Just try and look good, really.
Yeah, I didn't actually know that you started lifting at uni. I thought you started earlier. Joe would be one of the people that I rate highest with regards to his like knowledge and understanding of training. And I don't really say like you've heard my if you watch my YouTube vids, I just complain about how bad everyone is. So it's like a big thing. When you first started lifting out, who were your influences and who are your main influences now?
Um, I hate to say it, but like Hodge twins back in the day,
Why do you hate to say that?
just because have you seen their channel recently? They're just like highly politicized, like right wing
Is it
stuff. Yeah, they're like big MAGA people.
actually
Um,
MAGA? Like they'll say that.
yeah, yeah, they wear MAGA hats like in their videos and stuff. It's quite crazy. And then who else? Just the usuals like Omar Isuf, um, Matt Ogus back in the day. He was like one of the OGs. Yeah, he put out good stuff. And then, yeah, I don't know really. That was mostly like who I listened to back in the day.
And now, like this is Joe's workout. We're doing Joe's session here. In Joe's gym. This was my first gym back in when I was like 17, 16, 17. It's moved location, but I used to train here. But I'm jumped in for Joe's upper body session. And talk me through your philosophy a little bit now and how it's evolved and how like this is a great session, in my opinion, for hypertrophy and strength gains. Why do you do it the way you do it?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I train quite heavy now. I work in like 5 to 7 rep range mostly. I try not to go much above that because I think I progress better in like the lower rep ranges, and I think it's less fatiguing overall, based on like some of the literature. So yeah, I do lower volume approach. So I normally do maybe 5 sets maximum per muscle group per session, and then up to like 10 sets per muscle group per week in general. And then whatever I'm trying to prioritize, I'll put at the start of the session. So, for instance, in this case, we started off with the dip machine, so that's triceps, but also hitting pecs as well, and then moving on to the bicep preacher curl. You go ahead.
Just quickly, if you think lifting isn't a team sport, watch these sets. I mean, the collaboration of Joe helping me absolutely flop and fail so hard. Honestly, this is just trying to keep up with Joe on a few exercises. Like his triceps and lateral delts are just fucking ridiculously strong. I think I attempted his weight, failed as you saw, dropped 10 kilos, and you're about to see again, fail again because he's so strong. It's stupid, and I'm fuming looking at him. But anyway, you see the collaboration. He's giving me a good old spot, and then I drop the ego for the next set. Sorry, mate. So Joe's approach is quite different to how I used to train. And I would still say there are some differences with, like, I don't know if it's more fatiguing to do a higher rep set per se. I just think the room for error with how challenging a set is higher. The higher reps you go up. But sorry, I interrupted you, mate. Keep going with your training philosophy.
Yeah, I mean, I think like once you get into like really high rep stuff, especially like over 15 and above, you start getting into a territory where you're going to be feeling like severe pain and like burning to the point where you're not going to be able to like get up the motor unit pull to like those highest threshold motor units. So I do think there is benefit in like training heavier, because then you're maximizing motor unit recruitment like basically from the get go. Well, if you're doing like 80% plus of your 1 rep max for reps, you're definitely going to be up there. So yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why I do it. And also, to be honest, like I just prefer training heavy rather than trying to go for like pumps and stuff. And also, like, people say that you get like a massively more pumped from doing like really high rep sets, which is probably true. But at the same time, like, what we were doing these, we were hitting what, like 5 reps, 6 reps, and we were both saying that like we were definitely feeling it, getting like decent pumps, definitely getting like a mind muscle connection. So I think that is a myth, like, that you need to be doing high reps to get a mind muscle connection as well. Like, you can do that with heavier stuff. Yeah, so
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you there. The pumps come when you do these low rep sets. These are low rep sets. I think initially when I've trained with a couple of guys at my gym doing this low rep stuff, they're like, "Why the fuck are you going so heavy on a bicep curl?" And like, obviously that's satisfying to hear, but people just aren't used to it. But I genuinely think it's so much fun. With the higher rep sets, I do think there's a time and a place, right? Like, so the trade-off would be potentially that on these lower rep sets, you're getting a lot more work through the tendons, the passive tissues. So say you want to do a block that to give those tendons a little bit of time off if you're feeling niggles or whatnot, that's when you might potentially go to a higher rep set. And I still think the science needs to be taken with a pinch of salt. So I do think you've read the meta-analysis, I'm assuming, or heard of it, where they matched the 5 to 30 reps and the gains were equated across the studies for the meta-analysis. Brad Schoenfield, I think it was. Yeah. Which I think is like, it's reasonable to say. I just think the body's not super aware of what reps you are doing. As long as you are doing challenging sets, it doesn't matter too much, and you'll have different trade-offs across the different rep ranges. Like, some people will enjoy doing a higher rep set just because they like to suffer in the pain and all of that, or they literally just want to get. I'm calling you a pussy, exactly. But like, for example, like if you've got an issue in your shoulder, and you're trying to load up the lateral raises like yourself, just psychologically going in. So there's a time and a place for those high rep sets, but I've been enjoying this low rep training so much. It is actually ridiculous how fun it is.
yeah, you definitely make some good points. And also, I think motivation is like a massive factor as well in like what you get out of your training. So like, someone telling you, oh, you need to stay in like the 4 to 6 rep range, if you don't enjoy that, like, you're just not going to push yourself to the same degree. So you need to make your training enjoyable. And like, if that means you're doing 15, 20, 25 reps, like, that's fine. You're still going to make really good gains. So I think a lot of this stuff is probably overstated. It might be marginally better to not be going like well above 20 reps. I would say probably stay below that, but in general, you need to be making your training enjoyable, because motivation's like a massive factor in how hard you can push yourself.
It's like it's pretty much supported by most scientists now that tension or torque or mechanical tension is the driving factor for hypertrophy stimulus. Um, I like to play the devil's advocate, right? That's just a part of my personality, and I think like social and cultural factors and like the psychology, as you've said, like if you don't enjoy the training, you're going to get less out of it. Even if you just believe in a certain rep range is better than another rep range, that will probably influence your outcomes. So I think that's super important to state. I just think enjoyable is massive. But for me, I don't know how you think about this, how you feel about this, but for me, it's the progress, the adding weight, ideally weekly. That is both satisfying and engaging with the training and increases the likelihood that you are making gains. What are some of your KPIs? Sorry, the vest is out. Jesus, we're getting trying to look like Joe and getting lean. Shoulders are coming. But what are some of what are your KPIs? Do you have KPIs with your programming? Like what's a bit of your philosophy with programming over time?
Oh, someone's at the door. Yeah, I think like I track everything on rep count. So I track all of my sets, reps, weights. So I think over time you're obviously going to be wanting to progress. So I use like a dual progression model. So I'm either increasing the weight or increasing the reps. Those are the two things that I'm normally changing. I tend to stick with exercises for long periods of time. So the smallest amount of time I'd probably keep an exercise in is like probably like 3 months minimum, and then I could run something for maybe even up to 6 months, because I think at the start when you put a new exercise in, a lot of those gains that you're seeing are just like neuroadaptions that are happening. So it's not necessarily like you're adding muscle. It could just be that you're getting more efficient at doing the movement and ingraining those movement patterns. So I think it's important to keep exercises in for long periods of time, unless it's causing you issues like tendonitis or anything like that. Then obviously I'd switch it out. But in general, I'll keep stuff in for a long time and progress either weight or reps every week as long as I can.
Yeah, as you can see, for like it's hard to tell from some of these clips how strong Joe is because you haven't got the stack in them. And this one is probably the most obvious, apart from the dips. But it's my best lifts. It's unfortunate that's the most obvious. But Joe's a weapon. Like we trained with another one of my mates, our mates, who's like 20, 30 kilos heavier of muscle, to be clear. And Joe hangs at least body weight to kg. He's one of the strongest per kilo body weight I've ever trained with, which is really cool. Which is a really fun way of training like this, and a huge indicator from my perspective that you are developing tissue over time. You have to be getting stronger. Yeah. It's kind of I think,
100%. Yeah.
Our philosophy a little bit. So you do this double progression philosophy with your programming. What's your theory on like minimum viable volume? Like minimum adaptable volume, minimum volume to drive adaptations. And do you agree with the philosophy that there is a maximum amount of volume that can drive adaptations, or do you just stick it in there's 2 sets and anything more is too much? Or sometimes if you're feeling good, did you go up to 3? Would you do 4? Would you do 5? Would you do 6? Do you think there is a bit of an undulation with the volume, or are you pretty yeah? What's your philosophy with volume? How much should we be doing, Joe?
I'm definitely like a more low volume approach sort of person. I think you can probably make gains on like very small amounts of volume per week as long as you're hitting stuff twice a week. So I think you could probably make gains on like one set twice a week, and then if you're going up to like, well, I think the most I would go to is probably around like 10 to 12. I know this is yeah, per muscle group, like per week. I know some people like say that 10 to 20 is like the sweet spot, but I think just from the people that I follow and have listened to, like on the subject of volume, I think a lot of the like studies that have been done have been clouded by like muscle swelling, because I think a lot of the measurements that they take um, after the training programs are like too close to the end of like when they're training, so there's still a lot of like muscle damage and swelling going on, which could be masking like what the actual adaptation that has occurred is. So like if there's a crap load of muscle swelling, that might be measured as like a bigger increase in muscle gain compared to like a lower volume group. So I think that does muddy the waters a bit on some of those studies, and I don't think that we have the technology at the moment to kind of differentiate between what is actual tissue gained and what is swelling due to like edema caused by like muscle damage. And the higher volume you do, once you're getting up into like really high volumes, you're going to have a lot of muscle damage and a lot of muscle swelling. So I think it is quite hard to compare in that instance. Yeah.
So do you keep your volume standards pretty much fixed then over time? That's kind of what I'm gathering. There isn't much movement in there because the studies might not be clear, potentially either way,
Yeah.
more or less. Do you have a KPI, or do you ever add an extra set to maybe kind of as a like spread your risk, reduce the likelihood that you're leaving gains on the table? Or have you played around with that in the past and it's not moved the needles you wanted to move with regards to the KPIs you're pursuing in the gym?
Yeah, so I think like the most important factor at the end of the day is, are you progressively overloading on the movements that you're doing? So I think taking like the lowest volume approach that you can do while still like achieving decent progressive overload is probably the best option. I think I have done like higher volume stuff in the past. Like I think I did that, Dr. Mike's like RP strength stuff. Like I've done some of that stuff in the past, and he's a big advocate, I think, of like progressing the volume up and up. So you'll be adding sets, like as long as you're recovering. But I found by the end of that, like my workouts were like insanely long. I was doing like 5 or 6 sets for like a single exercise, and I think you might think that that is like causing more hypertrophy, but it could just be that you're doing so much volume that like you're just causing like loads of swelling, and you're basically just like a swollen Michelin man.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I like this train of thought.
That's just an idea though. Like I don't know if that's right or not, but yeah, I think as long as you're progressing, that's the main thing.
Yeah, I love the idea, like, and this, like, I think follows suit for every physical quality you're trying to develop. Just do the minimum viable amount that drives your KPI.
Yeah.
So if it's your strength week to week, your progressive overload, if you hit that and you can do that on as low a volume as 2 sets per exercise or 10-ish per week, 4 to 5 per session, do it.
Yeah.
Mate, Joe, thanks for coming on. We will do more of this, I hope.
Neighbor sessions incoming.
Neighbor sessions incoming. Let's go.